What's going on, world of YouTube? Hopping on here. I have a lot of people who talk about going out and hunting, and that is great when shit hits the fan. So let's go ahead and look into some realistic numbers about how long a specific type of wildlife would last in a shit hit the fan situation. Now I'm going to bring up whole numbers. This is something that I've been thinking about only because I hear it frequently, how many people are going to bug out, live off the land, hunt, etc., etc. Perfectly fine. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and I've checked the Ohio Department of Wildlife. I've checked different websites, deer and deer hunting magazines. I've looked at the population. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a breakdown. So maybe individuals can see and feel why we prep and for certain situations. Now, when I talk about this, I'm speaking specifically from deer standpoint. Now we can start to bring in other types of wildlife, but deer is generally one of the most populated animals. So I'm going to work with them. We're going to break down the numbers, break down how long it would last. And then from there, you guys could go and think about how realistic it is for the current population, or even half of the current population, to look at how sustainable living off that specific type of creature is. Also, we have to look at other common things that could possibly happen. Water contamination, things that could possibly kill them off. But we're just going to stick to basic population, shit hits the fan, strict numbers. So let's go ahead and do the math and I'll see what you think. The current population of the United States is 341,039,675 as of Saturday, January 27th, 2024, based on Worldometer elaboration of the latest United Nations data. But we're going to go ahead and round up to 342 million just for argument's sake and just to do whole numbers. So this is the number we're going to be basing it off of. Next up, we're going to see how many deer populate the United States currently. The current deer population as of 2024 is approximately 36 million deer in the United States. Now, we're going to be thinking about that. Once again, we're just doing a whole number. It's kind of an estimate. So they say approximate, but let's be honest, it's an estimate. I've seen numbers that range anywhere from 32 million to 36 million, but we're gonna go ahead and use 36 million just to be on the good side. Now, we're just going off of argument's sake. So the current population of the United States, as we know it, is 342 million. Now we're going to go ahead and divide that by the 36 million deer that are in the United States. Once again, I'm going on the high side of the numbers just to give a little hope. That equals 9.5. We're not going to go with the 9.5. We'll round up to 10 only because we're not counting half people. So you're equaling one deer for every 10 people. So just think about that for a second. Now these numbers come from deeranddeerhunting.com. So if you look at the average carcass weight, field dress weight divided by 1.311, then the ideal boneless weight, which is carcass weight multiplied by 0.67, realistic venison yield, ideal boneless weight multiplied by 0.70. So let's say a hunter kills a mature buck and it weighs 165 pounds field dress. Using the above equation, we can estimate the carcass weight will be at 124 pounds. It will ideally yield 83.08 pounds of boneless meat, but the deer's realistic meat yield is about 58.15 pounds. So take that into consideration because we're going to be using those numbers here shortly. Now we have the numbers again. So we're going to use 58 pounds of, that's the general what you're going to get off a deer. For every 10 people with the current population equals 5.8 pounds. Now I want you to remember these numbers too, because we're going to get more in depth on how this is going to work out. Now, if you look at that, you have 1 pound of deer meat has exactly 712 calories. Now, once again, I know you guys weren't asking for a math class, but still just bear with me, please. So you have the 1 pound of deer meat, 712 calories. Again, another number we're going to have to remember. Now we're going to look at the lowest amount of calories that you're able to survive off of. And generally it's around 1,500, but some people can survive off of 1,200 calories a day, but it will lead to being malnourished. we'll still do 1,200 calories, just due to the fact that this is the lowest amount that you're possibly going to work with. You generally want between 1,500 and 2,000 calories per day, but this will probably put you in starvation mode. It's not going to be safe and effective for most people, and this is based off of a study in Medical News Today, 2023, November 29th. So now we're going to take those 1,200 calories a day minimum, divided by the 712 calories that 1 pound of deer meat provides. That equals 1.68, bunch of other numbers, but we're going to end up rounding up to 1.7 for argument's sake. Next is the 5.8 pounds of meat. That's what we got once we divided the meat based off of everything else in the population, divided by the 1.7 pounds of meat that are needed to accumulate 1,200 calories and still send your ass into malnutrition. You're going to have 3.5 days worth of food. Now, realistically think about that. Every deer in the United States dies and goes extinct. Properly field dressed, feeding each person equals 3.5 days. I know that's not realistic, but we're going to break down the numbers a little more in order to half the population, drop the population to a quarter, and let's see how this goes. Okay, now I know you didn't ask for a math lesson, but it is what it is. You got one. Now, the only reason I did this is to show the importance of how many people there are and the importance of being able to put back food. So say, for instance, that was looking at a 342 million population. Now let's go ahead and half it. Say 50% of the people just get snapped out of existence by Thanos. Whatever happens, whatever works. I don't want to get into the kind of depressing shit that could happen. That equals 171 million people. So that only multiplies the meat by 2, which allows you to go from 3.5 days to 7 days. 7 days, that's all you will have. If every deer was perfectly field dressed, everything came out, and you got the maximum yield, the average would still be 58 pounds, which would allow you for 7 days. So let's knock it down by another 50%. So knock it down by another 50%, 75% of the population's down. So then we look at all the deer, and we think that that's only 14 days worth of food. That is 2 weeks. There are 52 weeks in a year. Of course, moving on to other animals, chickens, birds, squirrels, the whole 9 yards, food will be hunted out of existence. This is not it's not very sustainable. So now take into account that if you even cut the population in half, 171 million people are going to be looking for the same food, water, and resources that you have. Now, once again, cut it in half again. So you really have to think about what's going on, how it's going to work out. Those numbers are extremely high. So if 75% of the population goes down, you're still looking at literally roughly around 85.5 million people who are still going to be going after those same resources. So don't think in your head for a second you're going to be the only one out there in a field running around trying to hunt these animals. The only thing that might be able to save people is, looking at the wild boar population, because they breed so quick, but those would be pretty much knocked off into extinction. I don't even eat pork, so that's not something I'd really be interested in, but in a shit hit the fan situation, who knows? But you got to look at chicken, squirrel, everything else people are going to be hunting. I know people who eat raccoon, possum, they'll do whatever they can. People are going to literally start going to cannibalism. So not to get into that whole deep dark road or whatever, but all the deer, 14 days worth of food. Why not buy canned goods? Why not buy food that you can prep with, things that are going to keep you out and not be around that 342, 171, or 85.5 million people who are after the same thing you're after? Oh yeah, we can go fishing. Still, 171 million people. The numbers are still there. The only reason it is sustainable right now is due to the fact that we have these mass fish farms. We have, people doing beef and cattle, and we have people breeding pork and everything else, that people eat. Take all that off the shelf, and these things have to breed naturally, and they're out in the open, and they're also being hunted by other predatory animals. So there's a lot of stuff we have to take into account. The amount of predatory animals who are going to be after the same food source. Say, for instance, something goes down and I don't know, nuclear fallout. How many of those animals are going to be good without, people properly going through and looking at them? How many of them are going to be sick? Let's take into account how many may have blue tongue, how many may drink contaminated water when everything backflows. A lot of cities have it where once the waste goes in, to avoid it from going into the homes, is going to go out into the water. So think about how many animals are going to be drinking contaminated water. Not only humans who don't know how to properly use their water, and of course animals can't boil their water. So I know I'm going a little bit off center here. I was trying to keep this video short and sweet. Didn't happen. But this is just to stress and tell people, get your shit together before things get bad, due to the fact that if you have a realistic expectation of going out and hunting, there are millions and millions and millions of other people who are going to be doing the exact same thing as you. And realistically, if you believe you're not a threat to their food source, or what about that person who's trying to take food home to their children? You are nothing but an obstacle, and you are something they will knock out if they have to. Some people may be cool, some people may walk away. But if you've got a good kill on a deer and their children are starving, don't assume they're just going to sit there and be like, you know what, buddy? Go ahead and take off with that deer. I'll get the next one. No, that's generally not going to happen. So, once again, didn't mean to turn down a dark path. Not trying to, just trying to keep it real with y'all. I don't know how many people have broken down the math and actually shown people, the math, how it's worked out and how it's done. So that is just about it. 75% of the population, 14 days worth of deer meat. So realistically, I know people are going to say 2 weeks is better than no days. Yes, that's completely true. That is completely true. Then you have to look at other things that account. What season is it? How many calories do you really need? If you're not going to do the 1,200 calories, what if you're working, cutting stuff, making fires? You're going to need 2,000 calories a day. So now you've officially taken that 1,200 calories and that, 3.4 days, and you've dropped that drastically. So now your 3.4 days has literally turned into 1.7 because you've used 2,000 plus calories a day. So I'm going on bare minimum, you are going to starve calories. This that I just told you, that is the amount of calories that you'll need to just make it through. So once again, sorry for rambling. It's what I generally do, but I'm going to start making more videos. You throw out a comment, I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do to answer your question. I will be getting on different types of masks, gas masks, different types of things to put over your face. Also, I've got a couple different people talking about equipment they have. I'm going to tell you why or why not I would use it in a shit hit the fan situation. So once again, thanks for listening. This A New Breeze signing out.